Bride, and welcome to my Salon Viable Acrylic Design Workshop. In this workshop we're going to be using cover acrylics, core acrylics, glittery acrylics and all sorts of designs that are super salon viable and awesome to do. I really hope you guys enjoy it, so let's get started. So in this workshop I'm going to show you how to do some salon viable acrylics. So I've already done my thumb with a full cover pink in acrylic and a glitter fade, and I've tipped my nails. Normally I would sculpt, but tipping was far easier to do on myself with a clear tip, and I've squared it off and just applied a little bit of primer on my ring finger. So on this nail we are going to do a marble. So I have got my wipe and my monomer and 3 colours of acrylic. So in order to do a marble, what you want to do is work quite wet. You want to be able to play with the acrylic, but you also have to work really nice and thin because we're working with colour and glitter acrylics here. So we're going to need to go in with a clear acrylic and cap it. So I'm going in with the pink that I used on my thumb, and then a little bit of glitter, and then a purpley glitter, and I'm just popping them next to one another. Again, you can see I'm working really nice and wet, and then a white. So I've got a little bit too much white there, so I'm just going to take that off. And now I'm going to start to do the marble. So just using my brush, I'm just going to tease those acrylics and the colours up into my cuticle area, being careful to keep that nice little gap, and working really nice and thin. So I'm going up to the right hand corner, if you like, and then pulling that down to the left hand free edge of the tip. So we don't want to merge these colours too much because you want the difference between the colours to show. So again, I'm going to go in with a nice wet bead of pink, and then in with my glitter, which has got a little bit of a purple hue to it, and then again with my white, and then just swirling it up to the right hand top corner, and then down to the left hand free edge. If you've got a bit too much, just remove it with your brush and then tap it down, and keep doing that swirling motion at that angle from top right to bottom left, and then tap it out once you are happy with the marble. Just taking a bit of that pink back up into the white. And you can see, again, I'm working really nice and thin. So again, in with my pink, and in with my white, and in with my sparkle. And then again, working up to that top right, down across that free edge to the left hand free edge. So I'm just tapping this out now because I've worked nice and wet. I've got quite a lot of playtime with it and making it nice and even. So you can see there it's super thin. We haven't put any structure in on this nail. And if you were sculpting this out and not using a tip, then you would sculpt out your shape with a clear core acrylic to get the length and the shape of the nail. And then you would go in on top with your colour marble. So I'm just going in now and adding little bits into any areas that haven't quite got that coverage, and then we have created our marble effect. So I'm just now going in with a silver glitter. Again, this is an acrylic, just to add a little bit more depth, and again working super wet, so almost like you're painting it on rather than sculpting it on. Removing any larger flakes that you don't want in there. You don't want that glitter to be too overbearing. And like I say, this is not a core acrylic, so we have to go in now and cap it with our clear. So it is capping with our clear that puts the structure into the nail. So I'm starting on my free edge with my bead, working that to the side wall and down onto the free edge, and then tapping it out to give me the thickness that I need on the nail for the structure. So this is not only encapsulating those coloured acrylics that we've used, but it is also putting the structure in, and also with a marble it creates beautiful depth. So the fragments of glitter, you can't really see them at the moment because we're putting our clear on top, but the fragments of glitter will really pop when we come to put our top coat on. So again, just tapping it out, making sure that we've got that nice, even, consistent thickness over that free edge. Then I'm going in with my second bead and using my brush at a 45-degree angle to taper that down and blend across that first bead. So we've got a really nice, smooth transition between our first bead and our second bead. So just smoothing that out and over. And when you're doing acrylic work, what you want to do is get your structure and your shape in with your acrylic rather than depending on your file at the end. So I'm just going in with my third bead and then tapering that down into my cuticle area. And apologies for the state of my cuticles, I was a little bit harsh on myself. And then tidying up that cuticle area to make sure that we can get our file in there and get that really lovely taper. And that's why it's also really important when you're working with your coloured acrylics to make sure that you work really thin, because when we come to file, we don't want to start removing that coloured acrylic. So I'm just going in now with another bead just to put my apex in there. I don't need a massive apex for this because the nails aren't particularly long. If you were working on a form, they're probably to a 2, maybe slightly less. And then tapering that out, not too much, but just feathering that apex out. And you can see there we've got that slight apex. And we now have got the structure in our nail. So now what we need to do is wait for that to set up. And obviously if you were doing this on a client, you wouldn't have to wait too long. So I've just skipped forward and that has now set up. So now we are going to make it nice and smooth and file it in. So I'm going in with a 180 grit file and doing my filing routine. So if you guys don't know what my filing routine is, we have got another YouTube video that is available to show you how I go about filing in my acrylics. So I've just done my free edge and then I'm doing my side walls. I do apologise, I'm slightly out of shot here, but like I say, I am doing this on myself, so my angle isn't quite what it should be if I was doing a client. And making sure that those side walls and my free edge is nice and straight. So now I'm going along my side wall and tapering and debulking across that stress area, but not going over the entirety of the nail, just literally going around that side wall. I'm now going over my free edge, making sure that my top line and my bottom line are nice and even and consistent. And then again, going down my right hand side wall and tapering that in. So using my file nice and straight and flat so that we get that really nice consistent file and taper right the way from, you can see there, okay, right the way from the cuticle up to the free edge. So I've now debulked, so now again I'm just going to go scooch over that free edge and line up my taper from the left hand side wall to the right hand side wall, and then just remove any little tendrils or bits that are on my free edge and also on my side walls. And now I'm going to go in around my cuticle lines. So when you're working on a client, obviously you need to make sure that you do not catch them with your file. I like to use a boomerang file because it's got that nice curved shape that you can get in and tuck into that cuticle line. And I'm using my file at a 45-degree angle, okay? So I'm tucking in at the cuticle, being careful not to remove any of that colour. And now I'm going to file in over my apex, being careful not to remove it. Again, I apologise, I'm slightly out of shot. And now what we want to do is make sure that the apex line and our free edge is nice and straight, which it's not. So I'm just using the line of my file to create that straight line. I'm going vertically up the nail rather than horizontally, and then using that line that my file has etched onto that top line and tapering down to my side walls from that. So putting my hand behind it enables me to be able to see that structure. So I've got a little lump just there. So I'm just going to go in and taper that out, and also a little bit of debulking on that left hand side. So just checking from the top and side, making sure that all my angles are nice and straight. And it's really good to check this throughout the filing routine. So you don't want to get to the stage where you have over-filed, because you really don't want to be in a position where you have to go back in with your acrylic and replace what you've removed with your file. So again, just scooching over that top line, making sure it's nice and smooth, tapering down to that side wall at all times. And then you can see it's nice and straight from the apex to the free edge. I've just got a little bit more to do because there was a gap on that free edge on that straight line of my file. And I must say it is far easier to do this on a client than it is to do on yourself. So again, just checking again. And then we've got that nice angle of our apex coming in, and then that straight line going to our free edge. So what you want to do is, if there is dust gathering in that cuticle line from where the acrylic meets the natural nail plate, you want to remove that ridge. Okay, so you want that to be nice and seamless. So if there's dust collecting on that cuticle line, it means you need to go in and file a little bit more and remove that. So you can see we've got rid of that dust now. So if there's dust collecting, it's because it's collecting in that ridge. So I'm just going to go back in and do the same again, making sure that I'm working at a 45-degree angle. We do not want to remove that apex. So checking it down the barrel of the nail, checking my side walls, checking that top line. And then giving it a little dust off with my big dusty brush. And then I'm going to go in with a stiffer nail brush. And now I'm going in with a white block. So what this is going to do, because we have encapsulated that glitter and that marble in clear acrylic, we want to remove any scratch marks. So I've just gone over with a white block buffer just to remove that, and now I'm going in with my stiff brush, removing any of that excess dust and making sure I go up under the nail as well. And then we are ready to top coat. So I'm going to use I'd Rather Be Shiny, which is our No Wipe top coat from the Get Nailed by Lauren McBride collection. And this is the moment my clients absolutely love. So that glitter really pops when we come in and do our top coat. So again, making sure that you're not having any contact with that uncured product with your client's skin, sidewalls or cuticle area. And there you have it, our finished marble. So I'm going to pop that in the lamp for a cure. There you go, you can see that glitter in there really popping. Super simple, super quick. Your clients are going to love it. And you've got that top line in there as well. You can see that line of light is nice and straight. And that's because we've used our filing routine. So that's going to go in the lamp, and then I'm going to do the second nail. So we have cured that ring finger and our marble, and I'm going to go in and do my middle finger now. So again, I've prepared my nail with, not my ring finger, sorry, my index finger. So we've prepared the nail, I've put my tip on, and I'm just priming the nail with my primer. And then we're going to go in and create an ombre. So again, I want this all to tie in, so I'm going to use my pink for my free edge, and then a soft cover pink for the rest of the nail to create my ombre. So going in with my pink, placing it right on my free edge, and then tapering it out to my edges. Again, if you were sculpting this out, I would go in with a base layer of clear to sculpt out the length and the shape, and then I would go in with my really, really fine layer of coloured acrylic. So I'm making sure that I've got that depth of colour right on my free edge. We don't want any gaps. And again, I'm working quite wet, so I've just removed that excess. And now I'm going to taper this down about halfway down the nail. Because we're creating an ombre, a lot of people tend to stop short, which is why you don't get that smooth transition. So I'm now going to go in with a second bead and overlap it slightly, and now I'm feathering that out towards my cuticle line. Okay, so we're creating a feathered effect with our acrylic, and then I'm just going to bring that out and tap it up to the free edge, so we've got a really nice smooth transition of colour across our free edge and into that pink. So again, just tapping it out with the very tip of my brush. Then if there's any areas that are a little bit too tapered, I'm just moving that acrylic over to create that soft transition between the pink and my natural pink. Okay, so again, you can see I'm working nice and wet and making sure that that taper is nice and even and consistent. If you work too dry with this, it's not going to give you the playtime that you need to create that soft transition in your ombre. So also making sure that you go all the way to the side walls. You don't want any gaps. And you can see how nice and thin I'm working. We do not want to bulk this nail up at all. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with a soft cover pink right in at my cuticle line. And I'm not working wet here, I'm working at my normal consistency. And then pulling that all the way over, feathering that over my pink. Okay, so making sure that our cuticles and side walls have got that tiny little gap and nice transition between my natural nail plate and the acrylic, and then just tapping it over. But again, I'm working nice and thin. We do not want to bulk this nail out, so I'm not worried about the apex or anything like that yet. I'm just concentrating on this ombre. So now I've done my cuticle line on my side walls, I'm going in with another bead across that blend zone, okay, which should be on the stress point of your nail. So I'm using this pink cover to create my ombre. So again, just very lightly tapping it out, making sure that that blend is nice and even and consistent. And then I've just got a tiny little bit of shadowing there. So I'm just going to pop another tiny bead on there and then taper it down and then feather it up over. Making sure that we've got that really nice taper into our side walls and cuticle line. So now I'm going in with a bead of clear acrylic because our pink is not a core powder, so there's no strength in that pink. So we want to encapsulate that ombre as well. So if we didn't do this and we went in with our file, we would start to remove that beautiful ombre that we've worked really hard to get. So by capping with acrylic like we did on our marble nail, we're not only putting the strength and the structure into the nail, but we're also protecting that ombre. So I've done my free edge bead and just tapping that out nice and gently, tapering it down into my side walls. And then I'm going to go in with another bead onto that blend zone and pop that apex in there. So again, using my brush at a 45-degree angle, tapering it down and then feathering it out to my free edge. And you can see how beautiful that blend is, and that's nice and protected by our clear acrylic. So again, making sure you put the structure in with your acrylic rather than your file. And then feathering it out once you're happy to the free edge. So you can see there, we've got that nice apex in there. We've got that structure. I'm just going to thicken up that apex ever so slightly. So I'm just popping a bead exactly where I want my apex and then feathering out the edge of that bead. So I'm not going up over the top of the bead. I'm just feathering out the edges. And that bead is going to stay there and polymerize and then give me the apex that I want. And you can do this with any colour. It doesn't have to be natural colours, it can be any colour that you want. So now we're going to move on to the index finger. So I'm going to do a reverse French on this. So again, if you were sculpting this now, you would have sculpted out your length and your shape with your clear acrylic onto your form. But again, I've used a tip here just for ease of this video. And I have primed my nail. And we are going to go in with our cover pink rather than on the free edge. So I'm placing my bead where I want the top line of my smile line to be, allowing that to polymerize and then taking it down and creating that reverse smile line. So I'm taking it down onto my side walls and then tapering that bead out. And then we need to make this really nice and crisp, okay? So I'm going in with the very tip of my brush, not worrying about that cuticle line just yet. All I'm concentrating on is getting this smile line really nice and crisp. So just going through, and what you want to do is to create like a vertical wall. So when you look at the nail, which I'll show you in a little bit, when you look at the nail from the side, you've got a really nice straight line coming up from the nail. Okay, so we're extending my nail bed with this cover pink and making sure that we've got that crisp smile line in there. And this is perfect as well, a technique for nail biters to, if they want their French or a smile line put in, it doesn't have to be a white, to extend their nail bed. This is the technique that you would use. So you can see I'm being really gentle with this acrylic. We don't want to be pushing any nooks or divots with our brush into this wall of acrylic that we're creating. So now I'm going in with my cuticle line bead. I'm pulling this up, and normally we would pull this out to the free edge, but I'm pulling it to the edge of that smile line. Okay, so making sure that that cuticle line and what's remaining of the side wall is nice and flush, and then just feathering it out to the edge of that wall. And then tapping it out, making sure that we've got a nice, even, consistent colour. And you can see there we're creating that wall. So we've extended out that nail bed, and it's going to look much longer than it really is. So again, just making sure that it's nice and clean on that edge. And I'm just thickening it up, because we don't want, when we come to file this, to lose the crispness of what I call the bunny ears, so the top edge or the point of that smile line. We want it nice and thick and consistent, obviously not too thick, but we want it nice and consistent throughout the entirety of that edge of that smile line. Again, we're not worrying about structure here at all at the moment. That will come. So now my middle finger has set up. So again, while I'm waiting for that extended nail bed to set up, I'm going to file this nail in. Obviously, this wouldn't be the routine if you were doing this on a client. You could go in and do all of your extended nail beds on one hand, and then go in and do the next step, which I'll show you in a second, and then you're working consistently. But obviously I've done different techniques on the same hand, so there's a little bit of backwards and forwards in with regard to which nail and what I'm doing next. So I'm just going through with my filing routine. Again, I've done my free edge. I'm now doing my side walls and tapering my side walls in, going around my cuticle area, debulking that stress area. We want that really nice taper from our top line down to that side wall. Using my angle and the flat edge of my file to get that really nice, smooth, consistent edge in there. Now I'm going across my free edge, making sure that my top curve and my bottom curve, obviously my bottom curve is nice and consistent because we have used a tip, making sure that they are nice and even. And now I'm just going over that top section, marrying up my sidewall filing, my cuticle filing, and now just scooching over that top section. So if we hadn't encapsulated this in our clear, then we would be filing into that blend. So you can see there, I am just checking my top line with the edge of my file, so it's nice and straight from the apex to the free edge, and then I've got that 45-degree angle from my apex down into my cuticle line. So checking that all the time from all different angles, from down the barrel of the nail, the side of the nail, the top of the nail, and the other side as well. You can see there, I'm just checking again, making sure that my both side walls are nice and even as well. And then again, I'm going in with my white block buffer to remove any of those scratches, because we don't want those to show through when we come to do our top coat. So in with my white block buffer, removing those scratches right the way from each side wall over to the other, from the cuticle line to the free edge. And then once you're happy, you can go in and dust off. And then again, I go in with my stiff dusty brush to make sure that we're removing all of those fragments and particles from that cuticle line. And then again, I'm going to go in with I'd Rather Be Shiny, which is our no wipe top coat from Get Nailed by Lauren McBride. Butting it up, making sure that we don't have any contact with the cuticle sidewalls, and also making sure that we cap that free edge. And you can see there now how beautiful that blend is and how seamless it is, from our really quite neon pink through to that cover pink on our cuticle line. So that's going to go into the lamp for a full cure. Really simple but super salon viable nail, nice top line there, and that's going to go into the lamp. So while we've been doing that, this nail has now set up and we've got that wall there, but I'm going to make it even more crisp. So I'm going to go in with my file at a 90-degree angle. So this is straight. We don't want to over or underextend it. It's nice and straight against that tip. So I'm going to go in and file this and make it vertical and straight. So you don't have to do too much of this if you have got your acrylic placement correct. We are literally just sharpening it up. Now, if you're doing this on top of a form, you need to make sure that you have sculpted out that clear shape and length, because that is what's going to hold your form in place. The last thing you want is to be sculpting this out and for your form to start to move, because we still need the strength and the stability of that form underneath your nail. So I'm just going to dust this off with my dusty brush, and you can see there how we have made it really nice and straight and vertical. Okay, and this goes for if you were doing a chevron French as well. Obviously we're doing a traditional smile line here, but taking that right the way down to that point of our smile line on both sides, making sure that it's nice and even. And that dust is helping you to be able to see how nice and crisp this French line is. So again, dusting off, we don't want any dust or debris left on that extension at all. And now I'm going to go in and create my smile. So again, I'm going to use the pink so that this set ties in really nicely. And we're going to put our French in. Now, obviously, if you were going traditional, you could do this in white or any colour, or you could do a marble one here or a glitter. It's entirely up to you. So again, I'm working quite wet because I want this acrylic to butt up against that cover pink smile line and sit into it. Now, a lot of people tend to make the mistake of not taking this down far enough into that corner of our smile. You must make sure you take it all the way down. You don't want to come to file in and then have a little gap on your smile line. So now I'm going in with a second bead, and you can see this is very much a trust the process situation, okay? We're going to make it really quite messy, but you need to trust the process with this, okay? So again, making sure I'm going all the way down into the point of that smile line on both sides. And this pink needs to be nice and even and consistent. So I'm just thickening up that right hand edge because it wasn't quite consistent enough. And then just feathering that up and over that cover pink that we have just put on there. And you can see I'm working quite wet because I want to keep this nice and thin. You don't want to work too wet that you're chasing the bead all over, but we want that consistency of colour. If your brush gets a little bit sticky because you are working wet, then just wipe it off, remove that excess moisture of your monomer, and then just tap it out so you can see it's nice and even and consistent. But looks a mess, but please trust the process. So now I have waited for that to set up. It is now fully cured. And again, you wouldn't have to wait for this if you were doing this on a client. And I'm going to go in with my e-file. So I'm going to, I've got a medium drill bit on here, quite a soft drill bit. And I'm literally just feathering over that smile line. Okay, and removing that excess, and you can see there how that smile line is now popping out. Just wait for the camera to focus. There you go. We've got a really nice crisp smile line in there. So again, I'm just going to go in with my e-file nice and consistently and remove that product and make that smile really pop. So again, I'm working at funny angles here because I am working on myself. It is obviously slightly different to if we were working on a client. I'm just concentrating over that smile line. Now you can hand file this in, but to be honest, you can see how quick it takes for me to just scooch over with my e-file. And then I'm going from that smile line to my free edge, just to make that nice and consistent. Because if we were to cap this with our clear and that colour wasn't nice and consistently filed, then it would create shadowing, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to tidy up with my hand file now, my sides, my free edge, and then I'm just scooching over again just to make sure that we haven't got any lines in there from our e-file, and making sure again that it's nice and even and consistent, because like I say, we do not want to create any shadowing when we put our clear acrylic on. So again, I do apologise I'm out of shot, but I really needed to see this quite close. So yeah, so I'm just tapering that out, but being really gentle because we do not want to overfile, okay? And then I'm going to give it a dust off with my stiff dusty brush. And then I'm going in with my white block buffer. So again, we don't want any scratches on this. So I'm making this nice and smooth, but not too smooth that it's buffed. We're just removing those harsh file lines that have been left behind by our hand file. And again, going in with my dusty brush, making sure I'm going across that cuticle. So you can see there's no structure in there whatsoever, but we've got that beautiful crisp smile line now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in and cap this with my clear acrylic, just like we did for our marble and for our ombre. So you've probably noticed while I've been doing this now, I actually did my little finger as well. I did this as a set of 5. So on my little finger, I did a glitter ombre in exactly the same way as I did my middle finger with the pink, but just with a glitter. So again, I put my glitter on my free edge, tapered it down, used my cover pink, and then tapered that up to my free edge because I just wanted to create a set of 5. So I've used the same glitter, purple glitter, that I used in my marble just to tie that in so it wasn't too pink. So that's what's happened on my little finger. So while I've been explaining my little finger, I have done my free edge and popped that bead in there like I've done. I had a rogue piece of glitter in there, like I've done with my other 2 nails, and now I'm popping in that apex and my structure on my cuticle line. So just tapping out that product and then feathering it out to my free edge, making sure that it's nice and consistent. And we've got that nice transition between our acrylic and our cuticle line and natural nail plate. So tap, 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 and then feather out. So you can see now we've got that structure in there. And obviously if you were going longer with these nails, then you would be putting a much higher apex in. And if you were shorter, you wouldn't have so much of an apex. So this is now set up. So I did the tap test and I'm going to go back in with my filing routine. So free edge first, side walls, making sure that they're nice and straight. Obviously I've gone square here, but this filing routine would be exactly the same depending on whatever shape it was. So filing in my side walls, making sure they're nice and crisp on both sides. Filing in my cuticle line at that 45-degree angle. You do not want to remove your apex. And that is all about the angle of your file. So you can see here I'm going in quite straight. I don't want to file over the top and remove that apex. So now I'm just literally scooching over my apex from side wall to side wall, marrying up those file lines. And then going across the rest of the nail all the way up to my free edge. Making sure that we're not too bulky on those stress points. And then just scooching over the rest of the nail. Again, checking the whole time. You do not want to overfile. And again, you do not want to underfile. You want to get that nice consistent shape in there. So again, just checking. And I always find it easier to put because I wear black gloves, to put my hand just behind the cuticle line, and then you can see a really nice true shape of the nail. Sometimes your eyes can play tricks on you, especially if you're encapsulating glitter like with our marble nail. So always pop your hand just behind that cuticle line, and then you get a true reflection of the shaping of your nail. So I'm just going in with my white block buffer now, just removing again those scratches like I've done on the other 2 nails. And then in with my dusting brush, getting right into that cuticle line and underneath as well. And then we're going to go in with our top coat. So again, I'm going to use I'd Rather Be Shiny from the Get Nailed by Laura McBride collection. All of our products can be found at www.getnailedbylauramcbride.com. And I'm going to go in with my top coat, again, making sure that we do not come into contact with your client's skin, steering well clear of the cuticles, sidewalls, and also capping that free edge. And that really does make that smile line crisp up and really pop. I had a little bit of fluff in there, so I just had to remove that. Damn fluffies. And you can see that line of light is nice and beautifully straight. So into the lamp for a full cure, which is 60 seconds for our top coat. And that completes the 3 nails. So like I said on the thumbnail, I did do a full cover pink with a glitter fade in exactly the same way as I've done the rest of the nails, capped it with our clear. And on the little finger, I did a glitter ombre in exactly the same way as I did my middle finger, but obviously just using the glitter with that cover pink and filing it in the same way as I did all of the other nails. So that has now fully cured. I have done my little finger as well, giving myself a last dust off. And there you have it, our Salon Viable acrylics. So we have got our glitter fade, our marble, our ombre, our reverse French, and then our full cover colour with the glitter fade from the Cuticle Lines. So going in with my cuticle oil, because this was a new set, I'm also going up and under on that hypernicum to make sure that it's nice and hydrated after using our dehydrator. Rubbing that into the cuticle line on every finger, giving them a little bit of attention. And that completes our Salon Viable acrylics. Love this set, super colourful, ready for the summer. So you have it. So we've got our ombre, our marble, our ombre, our reverse French, and then our full cover glitter fade. Love them.
I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure you click the subscribe button, and if you want to see any future videos, just click them below. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all soon.